All right, sweethearts. Happy to see everybody. What's this? Okay. Okay. So we think we'll just dive a little hour together to think about, I don't know, the meaning of life. Why not? What's real, what's not, what's important, what happiness is, what suffering is. So we can do some tools from this to go one step forward in our little path, which is our life, in the development of our amazing potential so we can benefit ourselves and others. That's the plan, okay? That's it. That's our motivation. So, you dearest people, I think I want to ask you if you have any questions. Are there any questions in the box? Are there anything burning in your mind that you'd like to ask me? Did David have a question? Yeah, go talk to me, David. Let's start with a question. Go, sweetheart.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, Venerable Robina. Yeah, I would like to know if you could give us some insight, please, on the Dakinis and the Dhammapalas, on the nature of the Dhammapalas and the Dakinis. Also, are they fixed in their status, or do they someday aspire to become a bodhisattva?
I understand. That's a good point. So, okay, it's a good point, David. So basically, as we know, from the Buddhist point of view, there are trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of sentient beings, never beginning and never ending. So there's never any new ones and there's never any less. First point. Then we can divide them into Buddhas and everybody else. Then we can divide everybody else into the bodhisattvas and the holy beings, those who realize emptiness at different stages and their arhats and so on, and then ordinary beings, those of us in samsara. So then all of those, so we're the ones in the realms of existence. And that includes the gods and the anti-gods, the humans. There's so many of those, trillions and trillions. And we're in that lot. We're still in samsara. But as we know, then you've got the Vajrayana. So then you've got the sutra teachings. And basically the sutra teachings in the Mahayana view, you've got the beings they talk about are bodhisattvas. Basically, there are bodhisattvas. There's Buddha, which pretty much is Shakyamuni Buddha. And then you've got the bodhisattvas, beings who bop along from life to life to life, manifesting here and there as humans and goodness knows what, until eventually they achieve the goal of Buddhahood. But then as soon as we get to Tantra, that's when you have this kind of flurry of activity, isn't it, David? So you've got trillions of all these holy beings. So so-called, so for example, there's the Buddhas. Then you have, the different, in Tantra, as we know, the word is deity. So there's really an equivalent of the word Buddha. So first of all, you've got Buddha in Sutra, which is Shakyamuni Buddha, right behind me. And that's the aspect that we know of as Buddha in the Sutra teachings. And then you've got the Tantric teachings. So within those, you've got the main Buddha in Tantra is known for us as Vajradhara. It's just a different aspect, kind of Buddha mind dressed up in different clothes, So this is this is depicted in all these pictures of all the Buddhas of Tara, Chenrezig, all these thousands of different aspects of the Buddha in different forms. And this is in the Bodhisattva path and from the Vajrayana point of view. And so they're looking like goddesses and they're all dressed up beautifully. And there are male ones and female ones and wrathful ones and peaceful ones. And there are thousands of them. But basically under Vajradhara, you've got these 5 Buddha families. And each of these is a representation of different purified delusions. So Amitabha, for example, is an aspect of Buddha, is the manifestation of purified attachment. Akshobhya is the manifestation of purified anger. It's all just psychology, exactly just that. And then there's different, they call them the Buddha families, and all the other thousands of Buddhas are in those different groups depending on their style, because all these Buddhas are representing either, let's say, the virtuous qualities you want to cultivate, or they represent the purification of a delusion. So Vajrayogini, for example, is in the Amitabha family. She's the highest Tantra. She's this gorgeous, divine, naked red lady. And she's she's the aspect of purified attachment. Some Buddhas are wrathful. They're the aspect of purified anger. So it's really just a really very sophisticated psychology. It's all Buddha mind. Buddha is Buddha. If you come to the mind of Buddha, it's called the Dharmakaya. There's only one of those. There's no more of one of those, but there are millions of manifestations of that Buddha mind. So they're known as the deities or as the Buddhas. But then you have other holy beings. So some lot, they call them Dharma protectors, as you said, the Dharma palas. Now, I don't know enough of all of this, but there can be some for sure who are Buddhas, but there also can be some who are not yet Buddhas, but they're holy beings. And the same, I think the Dakas and Dakinis are these gorgeous goddesses and gods, these male and female divine beings that we often visualize making offerings in our practices. They also can be Buddhas. It depends on the different ones. I don't know enough all about it. There can be some who might not be. So certainly it's not a fixed state. If they're on their path to enlightenment, they'll eventually become a Buddha. There's no question. But in general, in all the merit fields we visualize, the Dhammapalas, the guardians, these ones, the those ones, they're said to be Buddhas. They're all said to be Buddhas, David, basically. But that's about the best I know. But if they're not, they're for sure on the path. There's no question. There'd be no doubt about that. Does that answer, David?
So eventually then we could imagine like the bottom of the merit field would be empty because they would all have, I mean, they're not going to be any more new Dakas, Dakinis.
No, but that's why I think when we do especially when we do visualize the merit field, all the different, as we know that all these different beings, we need to see them all as manifestation of the Buddha. I think you need to see them as the Buddha. And even eventually you see them as the manifestation of your guru's mind, all showing these different forms and different aspects to be of benefit to others. So I think the purest view is that they're all Buddhas. Does that make sense, David? Good. Thank you so much. What else, people? Any other questions?
Chuck has a question, Venerable Robina.
Oh, good. Chuck, please talk to me.
Hello,
Hello.
Venerable Robina.
Yes.
Pleased to be with you again today. On 2 years ago today, we were in Namche celebrating my 60th birthday.
Good Lord. Amazing.
And so we were, of course, with you on our way to
Yes.
Labudo.
Yes, louder, yes. Wonderful. Good.
And my question is, are we going back to Labudo in autumn? I want to first encourage anybody who hasn't gone yet
Yes.
to get on that trek.
That's what we're looking at. Well, Christina is looking at exactly that now. Already, I know people, the Nepalese are letting people into the country. I mean, I don't know how easy it is. And we're talking to Amber and finding out if it's going to be possible, because we've got one scheduled for October. It's still in the calendar, but I just don't know whether people are going to be, we're going to find out. If there's no, I mean, if many people may be afraid and don't want to travel yet, I mean, then we're really thinking maybe we'll wait till next year, but we're still seeing what's possible, because in the end, if they allow us in and people feel strong and they're prepared to get visas and we have to prove we've got our vaccinations, then I think there's no reason it shouldn't happen. But I think we can't be certain. It is right there. And many people have paid their deposit, kind of waiting for it to happen, so we're looking into it. But it is what he's saying is a very special experience. We've done 4 going up the mountains, walking 3-4 days up, and then having a retreat at Lama Zopa's cave. It's an amazing place up in the mountains, and then coming down again. It's very special, isn't it? Very special.
Absolutely.
It's true, Chuck. That's the plan. We're looking into it. You'll hear from Christina.
Very, very good. I
Good.
wanted to check in with you before I get off doing birthday stuff, and
Yes.
if I get disconnected, I'm going to try to follow along in the car. But
Okay,
if I get,
you do what you have to do. Go on then.
I see that it's recording, and I will come
Good.
back. And
Fantastic, Chuck. Happy to see you again. See you later, darling. Bye. Bye-bye. So, what else, Matt? Anybody there?
We had a question that was emailed earlier in the day.
Oh,
I don't
good.
quite understand it, but maybe you are in your wisdom, you can see what they're asking.
Okay.
Renee wrote, she said, in your life experience, what do you notice regarding humanity development?
Well, in one way, if I look back at my own life, and I was just telling the Brisbane people about this because I was a political activist before I became a Buddhist, I mean, I was kind of left Australia when I was about 23, and then started my own path that led to Buddhism 10 years later, or 8 years later. And I mean, I was very involved politically. I hadn't thought of it before, but suddenly when you first notice something, you become very involved in it. So I became this radical hippie first, then this radical lefty, then this radical working with black politics, supporting all the Black Panther movements back in the late 60s, early 70s, and then a feminist. So if I look back in those different movements, then the intensity and all that was the time of 68, all the anti-war business, all the ERA business, all this intense amount of political activity. And I look now, and it almost just seems there's another whole level of exactly the same thing. So in one way, just even my own short life, There always has to be, there is some kind of progress. You can track some progress in certain societies. You can do that. And historically, I'm sure it's the same. But the Buddhist take on it is, as long as you've got attachment and anger and fears and jealousy and resentment and the rubbish, which the Buddha says we can remove from our minds, as long as we don't work on those, literally nothing changes. It'll go in cycles. Not being depressing, because we can make changes. We can do certain things politically and make more rights for women, more rights for whatever, you know. But in the end, look how entrenched racism is still in this country. Look how entrenched the feminist business, women and men. I mean, things are changed. There are levels of change. You can always see that throughout the societies. But until we get to the root of the problem, which is working on your own mind, not somebody else's, lessening your own ego grasping, lessening attachment, that's the wisdom wing. I mean, they've got the wisdom wing and the compassion wing. And the compassion wing, if you like, that's the activist wing. That's when you get, that's the political wing, where you benefit the world. But you can't do that until you've done properly, until you've really done the wisdom wing, until you've really lessened your own neuroses and developed this amazing person that we have the potential to become, then we're really qualified to be a benefit. And that's the point about the compassion wing. That's the Bodhisattva path. And the Bodhisattva attitude is so outrageous that they have this powerful view. It's called great compassion. So compassion is this empathy with the pain of others. Love is the delight when others are happy. So when you're on the Bodhisattva path, you're aiming to perfect these for every being. But the extra level, there's this extra level of compassion that's unique to the Bodhisattva path, which is the courage of the Bodhisattva. So compassion is, oh my God, look at that suffering, it's unbearable. Great compassion, Mahakaruna in Sanskrit, is what can I do to fix it? What can I do to make it better? So the only person who's qualified to do that and persist with never giving up, which is the perseverance of the Bodhisattva, life after life after life, is the one who's done the wisdom wing, where you've rid the mind of the rubbish, you rid the mind of your own fears, your own anxiety, your own anger, your own depression, because that's what drags us down. We can't possibly have that level of compassion if we're full of our own misery. So you've got to do the wisdom wing first. And the degree to which we do the wisdom wing, understanding your own mind, getting rid of your own attachment, your own fears, that causes you to become this content, wise, self-confident person. Then the compassion wing is easily, and then you can have this perseverance. Because the part of the problem is, when we still got attachment, and it will be a long time before it goes, attachment is this emotional hunger that can't stand seeing the problems. So what always happens, and I can see this now in the new phases of people getting involved politically, which is great, but because we all have attachment, we get all excited. I know when I was in the 60s and 70s and doing all my political activity, you have this view that, wow, now things are finally changing. Wow, the world is changing. There's less racism, there's less sexism, there's less poverty. You get all excited and you think you've sort of, the revolution has come. But then when you collapse from that and you look around, it's just the same. You get depressed and you give it all up. But if you've got the Bodhisattva attitude of this compassion that knows sentient beings are very entrenched in delusions and suffering will continue to manifest until we get rid of delusions. So you've got this perky attitude of never giving up, no matter how many lifetimes it takes. That's the really powerful one in compassion. Because until we change our minds, things will change a little bit, but not really. It's not depressing. It's just the way it is, you know. So what do you think of that answer? Does it make you depressed? Chuck? Who asked me? No, it wasn't Chuck. Who asked that question, Matt?
Renee had emailed it. I don't believe
Renee. Are you there, Renee? What is that? Anyway, it's a good point. But I mean, you've got to have this perseverance, because if we've got attachment, we don't want to know about the problems. We're going to give up eventually, but you can't give up. You just got to persevere, you know. You just got to persevere. With perseverance, once you worked on your own mind, then you've got much more ability to have perseverance. You just keep moving one step at a time, doing what we can as much as we can, you know. Not easy, but no choice. What else, people?
Mary Lutz has a question.
Oh, Mary, what is it, darling?
Venerable Robina, I love this calendar, the Liberation Prison Project calendar.
Yes.
And I've been getting one for 15 or 18 years, but I really don't understand it. I love the images and I try to follow it, but I don't. Can you just talk about the calendar?
Okay, I mean, that's Liberation Prison Project, but I ran up until 2009. I don't do it anymore. It looks like Miller Rape. No, that looks Manjushri. Good. So yeah, what do you mean? What don't you understand? Ask a question about it.
Well, I understand when to look for when the pujas are, and I understand
Right.
like when I try to look for the auspicious days and the inauspicious days,
Right.
but I really don't know how to utilize the calendar, whether it's this one or the one online. And I don't really
Give me
understand.
an example of a particular day and tell me what it says on that day.
Okay, so what is today? I have to look. So I'll do today. So the 26th of
What does it say there?
it says PF, which is a prayer flag day. I understand that. It says fire puja. And underneath the March 26th, there's a little number 13. And I don't know what that is.
That's the okay. That's the date of the Tibetan calendar. Can you look up on the top and it'll tell you month something? What does it say at the top? Month.
Months 1-2.
Okay, so that's the Tibetan calendar is a lunar calendar that starts in different, usually around February. So we had the Tibetan New Year recently, remember, Losar. And if you look back on the calendar, look for that date. Look for the first day of the first month. Check on the calendar, the little number. Probably February. Have a look at the small number 1 in February. What small number does it say we are today?
13.
Okay, good. So that's we're 13th day of the first calendar. Are we in the first calendar? Are we in the first month or the second? What does it say? So what is the previous small numbers? Go back to number 1 small number. What date was that?
It says 1/7/17.
You mean 17th of March was number 1 day, was it?
Oh no.
Track the 13 numbers back till you get to number 1.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that would be on Sunday, March 14th.
And on March 14th, what does it say in the square?
FD-FF NCHNG PFPP Fire
And
Puja.
what is the month above? Is it month 1 and 2 still?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So go back previously to the beginning of the month 1. Get the first day of the first month. Go backwards. Go to February.
Okay.
What day was that? So find the day in the February calendar.
It would be on February 12th.
What did it say in the little number?
1.
So that's the first day of the first Tibetan month. The Tibetans list their months in numbers. So the first day in the lunar calendar of the Tibetan lunar calendar was that day in February, and that would be day 1 of the lunar calendar. And that was Losar. That's New Year's Day for the Tibetan calendar. So
Right.
these favorable days and unfavorable days and days to do prayer flags and days to do practices. You look in the back for the key. You look in the back, don't you?
Right.
They're all days based on the done by a Tibetan astrologer that are the certain days that are potent for certain things according to the lunar calendar. So if you want to, let's say, for example, you want to go to the back of the calendar to the auspicious days, go right to the back and find the FD days, different levels of FD, right? Can you see? FD. Yeah. So have a look at, so if you want to find a day to have a party, you will look up where's the favorable day, which is, and then it says FAWW after that, doesn't it?
Right.
So that's the different elements. So one is a favorable day, water, water. One is a favorable day, fire, air. So if you look at the explanation of each one, you'll see which day is a good day to have a party. That's the day you do it. So you look, there's not nearly much information there. There's so much information. But there's many days you wouldn't do certain things. There's many days you won't pull the prayer dags down. There's unfavorable days, for example. So there's different days that if you use the calendar, you would check which day it is and what day best to do a party, best to get married, best to do your puja, that kind of thing. That's what a Tibetan astrology is, that their astrology does that. Are you with me now a little bit?
Oh, this is helpful so much. I mean, especially understanding what the Tibetan calendar, what the other number means underneath the calendar day.
Right. Yes.
Now understanding that that's Tibetan. And
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Most of us in there, we don't look any calendar. We decide it's a useful day on Friday because that's the day we have off. We don't look at all these things. It's like we don't look at astrology at all. Tibetan astrology is one of the 5 sciences they study in the monasteries. And some people are expert at it. It's a bit like feng shui, you know, a bit like what's the subtler energies, how they affect us. For example, if you looked in the newsletter, you know, that your latest blog from Charmaine last month, I think, that Hup Cheng, the director of the center in Singapore, who's also a feng shui expert, Rinpoche gave her advice to take his advice, exactly what to do, the exact degrees for the door, where to put the stupa, and then on what day. So it was March the 16th. It came out best in the calendar. I don't know what calendar he uses, for her to go to the center and to start for the center to start your renovation. So you had to go to a certain corner and get a hammer and hammer 6 times. And that was the auspicious day to do that. And that became the day you began your renovations, according to the calendar, the most auspicious astrologically. Do you understand? Good, Mary. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
What else?
Maka has her hand up to ask a question for Robina.
Who does? Where are we? Oh, yes. Hello, Maka. Talk to me, sweetheart. Maka, I'm here. Oops, you became unmuted and you went back again. Let me go. Try again. There we go. Talk to me.
Are you still in Santa Fe?
I am, sweetheart.
Are you quarantined or would you go out for lunch?
I'd go out for lunch. I love going out for lunch.
Okay, I'll send you an email then.
You email me, invite me for lunch, and I'll come with my mask. I've had one of my vaccinations, and I'm waiting for my second one.
Perfect. Okay,
Good. Well done. I look forward to it.
me too.
It's a public invitation for lunch. I'm very excited. Thank you. Thanks, sweetheart. What else, people? Questions? Anybody? Yes, Susie.
Thank you for the teachings, Venerable. When doing 35 Buddha prostrations, do you have to do 3 prostrations for each Buddha each
You
time?
don't have to do anything. No, you can do one, or you can do, you know, you can do your, when I was doing my prostrations properly, I'd do 200 and I would do like 5 times each name. And then when I'm doing it really lazily, I'll do the entire 35 Buddhas practice in 3 prostrations. So it depends on how
Okay.
how enthusiastic you are. Okay?
Because it's really knackering. I'm
It is.
quite fit, but at the end of it, I'm.
That's English for getting tired.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
knackered. It's completely East English, as East London. It is very tiring, but it's sort of interesting because I know the very first practice Lama Geshe gave me when I first met him, you know, you can see my mind perfectly. He said, good physical yoga. I used to do karate. He said, good physical yoga, dear. And it surely is. Oh my God.
Ooh,
There's no doubt.
yeah.
And also, I just think that you resist it. We don't mind walking. We don't mind walking at the gym, you know, but as soon as you got to these prostrations, all the way down on the ground and all the way up again, it's like incredibly powerful practice. But it's stupendously marvelous because you're purifying your body and your speech and your mind. You couldn't wish for better. It's amazing.
And in the film, Chasing Buddha,
Yeah.
I saw you do a few, and it was super fast.
Oh, yeah, when I did my 200, I did them all in about 15 minutes. Yeah.
And you didn't do that bit.
I know, I sort of shortcut it. I mean, I just do it like down on the ground with my hands like that in front of me. So I think it's okay. I just do it more. I'd have my hands like that, but in front, I wouldn't go like that. I don't know if you have to do that. I mean, the lamas do different things. Maybe I'm a bit lazy.
No, I don't want to do anything in a rubbish way.
I understand that, darling. I think the best is really, everyone does I think it's best to get find the way Lama Zopa does it. He's very impeccable the way he does them. I'll see if I can find one for you and I'll send it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, darling. Okay. Thanks, Susie. What else, sweethearts?
There's a question in the chat box from Brian. He says,
Sure.
how does the Buddhist psychology view antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications working?
Absolutely, I understand. I think, you know, any medicine that helps us see our mind more clearly and help us steady our mind, wow, go for it, you know. You got to find out. That's all. Some can have terrible side effects, any kind of drug. I don't just meaning those two. But it also, I think anything that works for your mind is incredible. Because, it's interesting, the Tibetan medical system is similar to the Western one insofar as we can see, they see this intimate relationship between the physical and the mental. But of course, the Tibetan Buddhist one, which is coming from the Vajrayana, is way more subtle. It talks about the subtle wind energies. You go to your Tibetan doctor, she'll feel your pulses, and she'll know that because coursing through these 72,000 subtle channels of your body are these different states, all your different states of mind, and connected to these different wind energies. So it's a bit similar to the Chinese one, So she'll feel your pulses and she'll feel the imbalance of the wind energy there, and she'll know it's related to your aversion or your attachment. So she'll be able to identify what herbs to give you to adjust the physical, so it helps your mind calm down. It's exactly the same as the antidepressants and the anti-other ones. That they've got the analogy, they've got the model of the chemicals and things, isn't it? So they found certain drugs can help the balance of those chemicals, and it doesn't actually, the difference is the Buddhist view would be those drugs don't affect you, they don't physically work, they don't work on your mind directly, they work on the physical, which then gives your mind a chance to be more stable. It's the same as the Tibetan medical ones. So it's up to you to find the ones that don't have too much adverse side effects, and some probably do. I don't know, you have to find out. Absolutely, nothing wrong. Anything we can do that will help us find our mind to become more stable, do it, no problem. But we have to see the side effects. I'm not saying antidepressants do that, but sometimes we can become completely addicted to them and we can't function without. That can be the downside. So you've got to find the way to navigate it and be, to do it, just to work out, to observe yourself, how they make you feel, It's important. I hope that helps. Yes, good. What else, people? Questions?
Mary Jo asks in the chat box, how do prostrations purify the mind?
That's a very good question. It's very simple. Very good question. Well, given the karmic view that every tiny thing we think, feel, do, and say, none of it goes astray. It's all part of the process of quote unquote creating karma, doing actions, and they all are driven by the mental one, so the mental action is the thought. Then on the basis of that, your hand or your body does something, your speech says something. They're all driven by what's in the mind. So of course, as we must know much of the time, we're so driven by attachment we don't even notice it's there, but the body goes for the hand goes for the cake, the word says the mean word. It's driven by what's in the mind, which is why we then learn first to control our body and speech, and not just vomit out whatever we feel, not just jump on every boy we like, try and harness our crazy body and speech. Then we can get to the root of the problem and to start to work on the mind and to unpack and unravel the attachment, the aversion, and then grow the virtuous states of mind. It's literally the process of turning yourself into a marvelous person. So the general point is everything we think and do and say is part of the programming of this person, including our mind. How can it not? Even this, so for example, as Lama Zopa says, it's very helpful, I find this, from the Vajrayana model of the universe. And I mentioned this briefly already with the Tibetan medical one, that they say we've got this gross body and gross mind, which gross mind is the sensory consciousnesses that are connected to the physical body. So then you've got subtle consciousness, and that's inextricably linked with this subtle level of physicality. The wind, all the subtle 72,000 subtle channels. This is a Tibetan medical system as well as the Vajrayana. And then through all those channels connected to all those wind energies is our states of mind. Of course, this is not neuroscientific view, it's quite different. So all your mental states are connected to these different winds. So it's kind of interesting because you know yourself when you're angry. It's like a storm in your body, isn't it? It's incredible. These wind energies are very, very subtle, and the mind is connected to all of them. Whatever your mind does impacts upon those winds, and whatever the body does impacts upon the mind. So, as Lama Zopa says, for example, every time you get angry, the mind is angry. That programs your mind with the tendency to be angry, but it immediately and naturally impacts upon, pollutes the wind energies connected to your anger. And that eventually karmically creates the cause for physical sickness at the grosser level, because the subtle and the gross are linked, and it starts with the mind. All sickness and suffering of the body in the future is coming from past negative actions of the mind that pollute your wind energies. Well, equally exactly the same with virtuous states of mind. Then, you know, by having a mind that's virtuous, by having a mind that's very devoted, by having them, and while you're saying the speech of, you know, when you do the prostration, you say the different names of different Buddhas. So you're having this idea, there's the Buddhas, and they're the manifestation of your guru's mind. There's devotion in your mind. So you're visualizing the Buddhas, and you're wanting to, you know, to purify your own delusions. So that wish in your mind, which is virtue, purifies your wind energies. So you're purifying your mind and your body. And indeed, even when you say the words, by saying virtuous words, you're purifying your speech. So basically, karma is programming us into whatever we become. So by doing virtuous thoughts and doing virtuous visualizations and virtuous words and virtuous actions, you're prostrating. I mean, if you do the prostration just to get fit, then there's not much virtue in it. It's like going to the gym. It's different. It depends on what's in your mind. So if you're thinking of the Buddhas and you want to purify your delusions, that's what's in your mind. So the prostrations become beneficial. It's the whole process of karma. Whatever your mind does and your body does and your speech does creates causes and programs you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Good,
Yes.
good, Mary. Good. Everything counts, in other words, you know, everything counts. Yeah. What else, people? I'm needing you to ask questions. I have to get you to ask me questions today. I'm running out of petrol. Patrick, good. Talk to me. And David. So Patrick first. Where's Patrick? Yes, good, Patrick. Talk to me. You have to unmute, sweetheart. I can hear you. Yes. No, still muted. You're still muted, my dear.
How's that?
There you go. I can hear you.
Okay. Hi. Just learned today that my mother fell and hurt herself while visiting family in Austin, Texas.
Oh, we must pray.
What's the best way for me to learn? No, please. I am. Is there a way to approach learning medicine Buddhist so I can help her? Or not learning the whole thing, but I'm still new to Buddhism, so.
Of course, Patrick. So I think what I can do, I mean, we can now, before we finish the session, let's do a little medicine Buddha practice, very short, and we'll say the mantra. But if you like, you know, I can send you need to email me, Patrick, you don't mind. Email me, I'll send you a little practice of medicine Buddha, and we'll do a tiny visualization now, and you can hear the mantra, and that'll be something you can do because it's such a beneficial practice. So you email me, Robina Courtin, my name at mac.com. My whole name, all word, my name, Robina Courtin, at mac, like the computer.com. And you email me, remind me of this conversation. I'll do it tonight. I'll send you the practice, and I'll send you Lama Zopa chanting it, which is a lovely chant, and you can just replicate that. And you do that for your mummy. It's wonderful. We'll do a little practice before we finish, Patrick. Good, sweetheart. We'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Robina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
David, what's your question? David.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, it's in the chat box, but I had a.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh,
Matt,
okay.
read it out to me.
He asks, in terms of emptiness, how do we distinguish Manjushri from Prajnaparamitra?
I see. Well, I mean, David, the difference isn't within emptiness. The difference is the conventional reality. So within emptiness, everything has the same taste, you could say like that. And within emptiness, there's no appearance of anything once we've realized emptiness, once we've got the experience of it. But so the conventional world is where we have all the differences. So as long as we remember that Prajnaparamitra and Manjushri are both empty, then we can visualize one form or another, depending on our time, depending on the practice that suits us, depending on our karmic tendencies. So it's within the conventional reality that there are the differences. But finally, they all have no intrinsic nature, so they're all empty as well. So just it's a question of which practice we prefer, which one suits our personality. I mean, from life to life, you know, you'll have one practice you really like and another one that suits you. So that's within the conventional reality. They're different, but they're both empty ultimately. That's the way to say it, David, I would suggest. Is that helpful?
Yes, in terms of Prajnaparamitra, and using the bell, I had a connection with her, not necessarily with Manjushri.
Okay, so that means it's good to find the ones we connect with. It's important because they're different energies and they're all the same Buddha, but sort of dressed up in different forms according to our needs at different times, David. That's perfect. Trust that. It's great. Sounds good. Yeah. Is that clear, David? I hope so. Okay. What else there, Matt? Something else there, Matt?
Nothing else in the chat box now.
Okay. Okay. So why don't we do our little practice? We can, somebody else? Mary. Okay, sweetheart.
Mary would like it.
Yes, darling, talk to me. Yes, Mary.
Yes, I had a couple of questions and a comment. Well, let me do the comment first, that I really appreciate the idea of the Buddhists being all the same, but dressed differently for different roles. That's been a mystery to me, and thank you. That's very helpful.
Oh, that's good. I'm happy.
And I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Would you, along with sending Patrick that Medicine Buddha short practice, would you please send it to me also?
Of course, Mary, I will do that.
Thank you. I believe you have my email, I think.
Let me check
If
now.
not, I will send it.
Oh,
I'll
do have it.
send you a little.
I do have it. Yes, I have you there, Mary. I will send it
Yeah.
to you, as Patrick. I will definitely do that.
Thank you.
I will do that.
Thank
sweetie.
you.
I promise.
And
Yes.
the other question I have is, a long time ago when I was learning about Reiki healing energy, it seems to me that I remember somebody saying it was connected with Buddhism and it was brought out of caves from many years ago and many years ago, and that the monks had used it on each other. And I'm wondering if you know anything about that.
I know nothing at all about it, Mary. I'm so sorry. But maybe somebody here knows something about it. And if so, perhaps they can tell Mary, because I don't know. I've often wondered myself, actually. Anybody does know? Anybody? Paola, you know something. Tell us. Good. This is Paola, Mary. And Paola's in Japan. There she is. Tell us what you know, Paola.
Well, the Japanese like to think that everything originated in Japan. And there is indeed a man who gained enlightenment and the Reiki powers north of Kyoto, which is Japan. But I've had a question about this, which is something similar to Mary's question. I'm wondering if other people around the world haven't been able to get that gift independently of the Japanese, you know, just spontaneously.
Well, you know, I could answer that, Paola. I think that if we take the view of reincarnation and we bring into this life our different imprints, you know, a person could have a very strong connection with Buddhism, but in this life have never heard of Buddhism, but have certain realizations that you could know they must have had from being Buddhist. So it's not from out of the blue. It's come from past tendencies and past practice. So it makes complete sense. That would make complete sense, I would say. But did Reiki manifest? Did it come from Japan? Did it? Do you think it did, Paola? You don't know.
Oh, I'm 100% sure. I mean, I've been to the mountain. I know the guy, and
I see. Okay.
There's a lineage.
Yes, I see. Because if you understand, you see, if you understand the Tibetan Buddhist, which is the Vajrayana model of the universe, which is what I've been describing here a couple of times, which is the system the Tibetan medical system uses, then it's kind of, it can be explained in those terms for sure. I mean, the Tibetans, you know, for the Tibetan doctors, because that view is so holistic. Its view is based on past karma and on the mind and the utter relationship, the inextricable relationship between the physical and the mental, even at the subtle level. So it seems like Reiki's got some idea like that. So that makes complete sense. So a person who's a really great healer, like Buddhas, can just look at you and they can heal you. Just touching you, they can heal you. Because but the Buddhist view would be that they're channeling the Buddhas, you know. So I would always say a person who's a Buddhist who does Reiki, that you'd visualize above your crown medicine Buddha, and that you are healing through medicine Buddha. I mean, that would be the way I'd describe it. You know, I don't quite understand Reiki unless I understand it like that. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
What else? I think we should just do a little practice now. Why don't we do a little medicine Buddha practice for all of us, but in particular Patrick's mummy and anybody else who we know is sick or dying, and that's the whole universe. So let's just, I'll just do it very, I won't do it with all the little prayers and things. I'll just do a little visualization, and then we'll say the mantra a few times. So this is not quite the same as when you see it in the practice. It's it's got slightly more detail, Patrick, but you'll see. But just get the essence of it, you know. So we try, if we can imagine just above us, it'll be very natural, very relaxed, in the sky in front of us. And maybe above our crowns. Let's think. Is it Buddha above your crown or in front? I can't remember. Maybe above our crowns, okay? We visualize the Buddha. So the Buddha is the Buddha, enlightened mind. But the particular form here, medicine Buddha, he's blue, dark blue, but he looks just like Shakyamuni Buddha. He's in this sutra form. He's not like in the deity form from Tantra. He looks just like the Buddha, sitting in cross-legged as a monk, but he's totally blue, and he's holding a begging bowl. And you can just imagine in his hand, the begging bowl, it's holding all the medicines to heal all the illnesses, all the physical and all the mental illnesses, which are all the karma and the delusions of all sentient beings. We imagine this above our crowns. And he's looking very radiant and very beautiful. Everything's made of light, just like the Buddha, but he's blue, okay? Full of compassion. His face is blissful, radiant, full of love, full of compassion. And if we have a spiritual teacher, we think it's their mind manifesting as the medicine Buddha, solely for our benefit and the benefit of all suffering sentient beings. So I think I'll just make up a visualization, make up a little practice, okay? So imagine, maybe imagine also all the sentient beings of the universe. In particular, you know, you can think of those who you want to think about, like Patrick's mummy, other people. You know, you visualize all the suffering sentient beings all around us. And then we visualize, just imagine them there. And now we visualize from Medicine Buddha's heart. Just imagine he sends out radiant light beams. So in the hearts, entering through the crown of all the suffering sentient beings, completely healing all their pain, all their suffering, their physical pain and their physical suffering, but also purifying all the negative karma from beginningless lifetimes, which is the source of why we suffer, you know. Purifying all the suffering and all its causes, filling us completely with this radiant, let's say it's white light, coming from Medicine Buddha, so happily wanting to purify every one of us, really wanting this. And Patrick visualizing his mother, all of us visualizing Patrick's mother, and anybody else who's sick, and all the suffering people and all the dying people, all the dead people, all of them receiving these blessings from Medicine Buddha, healing our suffering and its causes. As we recite just a few times the mantra, we'll soothe. Yeah, you'll just get the hang of it. Well, actually, no, you can repeat it. Just we'll just say it. Just say it with me. Get used to it if you can. If not, just visualize the light. Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Om Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Svaha. Taya taum bekanze, maha bekanze, ranza samungate svaha. Taya taum bekanze, maha bekanze, ranza samungate svaha. Taya taum bekanze, maha bekanze, ranza samungate svaha. So imagine now Medicine Buddha dissolves into all of the millions of beings. It dissolves through our crowns, every one of us, completely dissolves within us and merges with our body, speech, and mind. You imagine this. Every single being, purifying all of us. All right, that was all, just a few minutes, just to give a taste. In the prayer I'll send you, Patrick and Mary, there's a longer version with little prayers, and there's many other Buddhas as well. You say their names, all the different, there's 8 medicine Buddhas. You say their names and you visualize different things. It's very nice. Or you can just keep it very simple, like I said it, as you wish. You know, you can be very flexible. So maybe it's the same question. How does this purify? It's exactly the same as I answered before. Every thought counts. This is the thing we don't pay attention to in our culture. We don't think thoughts matter. We really don't think thoughts matter. We actually say, oh, it's only in the mind. This is so astonishing. The more we compare it with the Buddhist view, that everything in the mind, that's what creates us. Life after life after life, in fact. So it's the exact opposite view, you know. It's very powerful. So then we really want to work on our mind. We would want to watch our mind like a hawk. This is the point, you know. And everything we think, everything we say that's driven by what we thought, and everything we do that's driven by what we think. This is the process of creating karma, of literally producing the person we become. It's very powerful. And then we can see the power of the mind. You know, you walk into a room and everyone's enjoying and laughing and having fun. I mean, like friendly to each other, kind to each other. There's such a pleasant feeling, isn't there? But you walk into a room and you know immediately something's wrong. Nobody's speaking, but you can feel, people say you can feel the energy. What do you think that means? You're feeling the angry thoughts that people are having. So mind is so powerful, you know. And that's not even being clairvoyant. That's just we say feeling it, you know. You can cut the something with a knife, people say. Nobody's saying a word. You have to look at a person. You can see what their mind's doing. You don't have to be clairvoyant. I mean, not totally, but you can see a person who's beaming and smiling and who's kind to other people. You can sort of deduce their mind must be having happy thoughts. I mean, you can't often tell because sometimes we hide what we feel so much, you know. But in general, we can really see it. And this is the power of the mind, you know. But in our culture, we really think it doesn't matter. I'll never forget one time, you know, so interesting. I mean, the Buddha's view is whatever's in the mind drives what we do with our body and speech. You know, if there's no thought to put your hand in a pocket and give $5 to a homeless person, your hand, I promise you, will not go into your pocket. It's so obvious. But our trouble is we don't notice. Like when the cake is there and you're completely programmed with attachment, you think you didn't even have the thought to put the hand on the cake, but suddenly you're eating cake. That's because the habit is so strong. The thought of attachment is so strong, we don't even notice, you know. But I remember one time I saw on my New York Times on my iPad, and I was reading a story about, this is years ago, about a woman in Brooklyn who got into her husband's computer and discovered that he was part of a cannibal site and they were preparing to kill and eat her. Well, she was quite shocked, wasn't she? She went to the FBI. She didn't just call the police. I thought it was so wonderful. She called the FBI. I mean, you'd be surprised, wouldn't you, if your husband's going to eat you? You'd be a bit shocked. But the point is this, his lawyer, the man's lawyer, his whole defense was, oh, it's only in their mind. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. I mean, that just shows how demented we are, that we really feel that your mind's not connected to what you do. I mean, that shows how crazy we are. And it's true in our culture. We have no awareness of what's in our mind, you know. We think I'm allowed to think what I like. because we don't understand the process of everything we think sows seeds and programs us. But it's fairly obvious, because if you're learning to play the piano, you know perfectly well every thought counts. You can't just say, oh, I can think whatever notes I like and I'll still play Bach. No, you won't. You'll just play crazy notes, because what you'll play only what's in your mind. So it's so obvious that our behavior, our body and speech is an expression of what's in our mind. It shouldn't be a revelation, but it kind of is, you know. It's very fascinating. And as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, the vast majority of all humans on this planet have absolutely no idea that what goes on in their mind plays any role at all in their lives. And what he means by that is, we know we're angry, we know we're loving, we know we're jealous, but we think the outside world is the thing that makes us what we are. So we don't think our mind plays a role. That's very powerful, you know. That's how demented we are, how disconnected we are, I'd say, with what goes on in here, you know. It's very powerful.
Excuse me, Venerable.
Yes.
Mary has very patiently been waiting for a gap. Mary Whiteman.
Oh, Mary. Good, sweetheart. Talk to me.
Yes, thank you again. I have a couple of questions. So I have a friend, for example, maybe she and I were thinking about helping another peripheral friend that needs help walking, you know, these days.
Wonderful.
And so we might be thinking about it. And then my friend might say, oh, well, it's the thought that counts anyway. And
Sure,
we know
we say that, don't we?
and we don't get around to actualizing that
Doing-
idea.
yes.
And
That's a really
I'm
good
thinking,
point, isn't it? Yeah, this is right.
I'm thinking, oh, well, I don't know about that. It seems to me like that's a cop out or something.
No, I understand.
So what do you think about it?
No, I'm thinking about it. So what did that evolve from? It's the thought that counts. That maybe, you know, I mean, maybe you did. I think it can be in situation, it can be valid. Like, you know, you, let's say you ring me up and you say, Robina, I'd love to invite you for a meal. And I'll say, oh, darling, I'm so busy tonight. I can't. I'd love to go another day. Then you'd say, well, it's a thought that counts. That would be valid, because you did the Buddhist, you did create virtuous karma even with the thought. But I think the situation you described, that would be not, because you just didn't. That's a laziness.
Yes, yes.
That's a laziness.
Yes.
That's a different situation, and I agree with you there. The thought does not count then, because in the end, what's the point of saying the thought counts when your friend needs help? That's different. I think there's a different scenario altogether, and I agree with you, Mary.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
so
Good.
that's a good one. That means we've got to get past the laziness and actually do what we say. That's pretty powerful, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and that following through seems to be an
Exactly
important
right.
part of it to
Exactly
me.
right. That's exactly right.
And I would like to ask you if you have time, but maybe you don't have time, but what do those words mean? Tayata Om Bekense, Maha Bekense. And then that Raja, I had written that R-A-J-A, but it sounds to me.
The original Sanskrit. This is the thing, over the centuries, the Tibetans have never translated the mantras because they say that Sanskrit is said to be so powerful. Such a powerful sound. But what's interesting, the Tibetans have developed their own way of pronouncing the Sanskrit. It's a bit like you've got English maybe starting in London, and then you've got the Scots, and the Scots have their own way of saying English. As we know, it's completely different. And look at the Americans, look at the Australians. We've got all these different accents now. So the Tibetans have got their own way of speaking. So if you look at the actual Sanskrit spelling, that's not the way I said it at all. I say it the way I learned it from my lamas, which is where the blessing comes from, and that's the way they seem to have evolved in their pronunciation in Tibetan. So it's quite different. I agree with you. So, but as for the meaning, I honestly don't know. I haven't looked up the translations. Often our relationship with mantras, unless you speak Sanskrit, is that it's the general energy of the meaning of the mantra that seems to be enough. But there is, of course, each of those words means something, and I don't know. I don't speak Sanskrit.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't answer. I'm so sorry, John.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
that explanation. That's
Pleasure.
helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think it's
Thank
time to finish, everybody. Dearest ones, 1 hour. Not quite. I cheated you of 5 minutes today. But I'm running out of voice. These days, I don't know what's going on. I have to learn my singing techniques again, where I learned from my mother when I was 15 how to sing, how to hold my voice properly, but I can't do it anymore. I have to learn it again. So, darling, you people, I'm happy to see you all. If there's any food for thought in this last 55 minutes, I'm so happy. And we keep on moving and we never give up, and we just keep working on our minds, keep feeling our suffering, keep getting over it, keep moving forward, and keep trying to help others. What else can we do? One baby step at a time. Jangchub Semto Rinpoche, Makye Param Gegu Chige Panyampa Mepa Yang, Gongne Gongru Pavashok. All right, my dears. Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you so much. Well, Matt is there too. Thank you,
Thank
darling.
you, Venerable